about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's ongoing visit to Palestine. Now, Prime Minister Modi is on a historic visit to Ramallah in Palestine with one clear message, that India is dehyphenating its ties with Israel and Palestine. And Palestine, for its part, rolled out the red carpet in conferring the Grand Collar, the highest order given to foreign dignitaries, kings and heads of state. The commendation given to Prime Minister Modi reads, and I quote, "In recognition of his wise leadership and his lofty national and international stature, and in appreciation of his efforts to promote the historic relations between the state of Palestine and the Republic of India," Prime Minister Modi was given a ceremonial reception upon his arrival at Ramallah earlier this morning. This is the first visit to the region by an Indian Prime Minister and the first visit by a world leader after the United Nations General Assembly vote rejecting US President Donald Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Interestingly, Israeli Air Force jets accompanied Prime Minister Narendra Modi's helicopter to Ramallah. After the wreath-laying ceremony at Arafat Museum, he was given a ceremonial guard of honor at the presidential palace. He was accompanied by Palestine's President Mahmoud Abbas. All right, joining me live to continue a discussion this afternoon is Ambassador Arun Singh, who joins me in the studio. And on Skype, live from London, is Kadira Pettigora, a non-resident fellow at the Brookings Doha Center. Good afternoon to both my guests. Ambassador Singh, coming to you now. Let's not forget Prime Minister Modi will be traveling to two other countries after Palestine, the UAE and Oman. Now, we've not been discussed enough about Oman. Now, why Oman and what's in it for India?
So Oman, we've had a very, very strong relationship. There's been a...
All right, hold your thought, Ambassador Singh. We are given to understand that the live press conference has begun in Ramallah. Let's cut right across to the press conference in Ramallah.
Tie our countries, and which will contribute undoubtedly to further development and advancement of the deeply seated friendship ties between our peoples. In this context, I highly appreciate the positions, the noble and dignifying positions of India for long decades towards the Palestinian people and their just cause. Great India, with its people and current leadership and historical leadership, formal leadership, has always stood by the side of righteousness, justice, and peace in Palestine. And it has been one of the first countries to recognize the state of Palestine in 1988. Ladies and gentlemen, I have conducted a session of talks, fruitful and constructive talks, with His Excellency the Prime Minister Modi, Mr. Modi. It has been a very kind and great opportunity to update him on the overall developing situation in Palestine and in the region. And I have exchanged with His Excellency points of view relating to the prospects of peace and getting the peace process out of this dilemma due to the continuing Israeli occupation of our land and the blocking of the political horizon and prospects follow in the wake of the U.S. President's decision on Jerusalem and refugees. Here I would like to reassert our commitment to political action and negotiations as a means of achieving our national goals to freedom and independence in accordance with the two-state solution along the lines of 1967 and the internationally legitimate resolutions, so that both Palestine and Israel can coexist in peace and security, provided that East Jerusalem is the capital of the state of Palestine. And we, have not and will not, did not and will not reject negotiations ever. And we have said, and we still say, that we are ready to engage in negotiations. The formation of a multilateral mechanism that stems or produced by an international peace convention is the most ideal way to broker such negotiations. In this regard, we rely on India's role as an international force of great standing and weight through its historical role in the non-aligned movement and in all international fora, and its increasingly growing power on the strategic and economic levels in a way that is conducive to just and desired peace in our region, and which will impact peace and world and security and peace. Your Excellency, the Prime Minister, this has been a good opportunity to express to Your Excellency how much respect and how high of a standing you personally have through your wise and courageous and brave leadership, and in establishing peace and stability foundations in our region and the world. And in recognition of that, we have had the honor today to decorate you with the highest order of honor in Palestine, and that is the Grand Order of the State of Palestine. This, and I should not miss to thank and express our thanks and appreciation to your government's generous decision to fund a number of projects, a variety of important and essential projects which will contribute to building our national institutions and the service of our Palestinian people. And this will contribute to reinforce bilateral relations between the friendly countries, which we want to further prosper in a wide spectrum of fields and areas. And in this respect, we reaffirm our commitment to cooperate jointly to promote cooperation in security areas and fighting terrorism wherever it existed or emerged. Once again, I salute you, Your Excellency, and wish you a lifetime of happiness and success and abundance of success and happiness, and to the Republic of India and its friendly people further prosperity and well-being. Long live the Palestinian-Indian friendship. Thank you. فخامة الرئيس محمود عباس، أعضاء الوفدين الفلسطيني والهندي، السيدات والسادة الإعلاميون، الحضور الكريم، سيداتي وسادتي، صباح الخير. إنه لشرف عظيم
पहली यात्रा पर रामल्ला आना बहुत ही प्रसन्नता की बात है। प्रेसिडेंट अब्बास, आपने मेरे सम्मान में जो शब्द कहे और जिस गर्व जोशी के साथ मेरा तथा मेरे शिष्टमंडल का शानदार स्वागत किया, इसके लिए मैं आपका हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। एक्सेलेंसी, आपने आज मुझे बहुत आत्मीयता के साथ फिलिस्तीन के सर्वोच्च सम्मान से नवाजा है। यह पूरे भारत के लिए सम्मान का विषय है और भारत के लिए फिलिस्तीन की मित्रता और सद्भावना का प्रतीक है। इस सम्मान के लिए मैं 125 करोड़ हिंदुस्तानियों की तरफ से आपका हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। भारत और फिलिस्तीन के बीच जो पुराना और मजबूत ऐतिहासिक संबंध है वह समय की कसौटी पर खरा उतरा है। फिलिस्तीन के हितों को हमारा समर्थन हमारी विदेश नीति में सदैव ऊपर रहा है, अनवरत, अविचल। इसलिए आज यहां रामल्ला में प्रेसिडेंट महमूद अब्बास को जी, जो कि भारत के बहुत पुराने मित्र हैं, उनके साथ खड़े होकर मुझे खुशी हो रही है। पिछले वर्ष मई में उनकी नई दिल्ली की यात्रा के दौरान उनका स्वागत करने का सौभाग्य मुझे और हम भारतवासियों को मिला था। हमारी मित्रता और भारत के समर्थन को नवीनता प्रदान करते हुए मुझे अनहद खुशी हो रही है। इस यात्रा में अबू अमार के मकबरे में श्रद्धांजलि देने का मौका मिला। वे अपने समय के शीर्षस्थ नेताओं में से थे। फिलिस्तीन संघर्ष में उनकी भूमिका बेमिसाल है। अबू अमार भारत के भी एक विशिष्ट मित्र थे। उनको समर्पित संग्रहालय का भ्रमण भी मेरे लिए अविस्मरणीय अनुभव है। मैं अबू अमार को एक बार फिर आदरपूर्वक श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करता हूं। लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, फिलिस्तीन के लोगों ने निरंतर चुनौतियां और संकट की स्थिति में अद्भुत दृढ़ता और साहस का परिचय दिया है। आपने परिस्थितियों से निपटने के लिए चट्टान जैसी संकल्प शक्ति का भी परिचय दिया है, और वह भी इस बात के बावजूद कि अस्थिरता और असुरक्षा का वातावरण रहा हो, जो प्रगति को बाधित करता है और कठिन संघर्ष से प्राप्त लाभों को खतरे में डालता है। जिन कठिनाइयां और चुनौतियों के बीच आप आगे बढ़े हैं वह प्रशंसनीय है। हम आपकी भावना और बेहतर कल के लिए प्रयास करने के आपके विश्वास की हृदय से सराहना करते हैं। फिलिस्तीन के राष्ट्र निर्माण के प्रयासों में भारत आपका बहुत पुराना सहयोगी है। हमारे बीच ट्रेनिंग, टेक्नोलॉजी, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट, प्रोजेक्ट असिस्टेंस और बजटरी सपोर्ट के क्षेत्र में सहयोग है ही। हमारी नई पहल के हिस्से के रूप में हमने यहां रामल्ला में एक टेक्नोलॉजी पार्क प्रोजेक्ट शुरू किया है, जिसमें इस समय निर्माण कार्य तेज गति से चल रहा है। इसके बाद बन जाने के बाद हम आशा करते हैं कि यह संस्था रोजगार को बढ़ावा देने वाले स्किल्स और सर्विस सेंटर के रूप में भी काम करेगी। भारत रामल्ला में इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ डिप्लोमेसी बनाने में भी सहयोग कर रहा है। हमें विश्वास है कि यह संस्थान फिलिस्तीन में युवा राजनयिकों के लिए एक विश्व स्तरीय प्रशिक्षण संस्थान के रूप में उभरेगा। हमारे कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग कोऑपरेशन में दीर्घ और अल्पकालिक पाठ्यक्रमों के लिए परस्पर प्रशिक्षण शामिल है। विभिन्न क्षेत्रों जैसे अग्रणी भारतीय शैक्षणिक संस्थान में वित्त प्रबंधन, ग्रामीण विकास और सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी में फिलिस्तीन के लिए ट्रेनिंग और स्कॉलरशिप स्लॉट को हाल ही में बढ़ाया गया था। मुझे खुशी है कि इस यात्रा के दौरान हम अपने विकास सहयोग को आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं। भारत फिलिस्तीन में स्वास्थ्य और शैक्षणिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर तथा महिला सशक्तिकरण के केंद्र और एक प्रिंटिंग प्रेस लगाने की परियोजना में निवेश पैलेस्टाइनियन स्टेट के लिए यह योगदान बिल्डिंग ब्लॉक मानते हैं। द्विपक्षीय स्तर पर हम मिनिस्ट्रियल लेवल ज्वाइंट कमीशन मीटिंग के माध्यम से अपने संबंधों को और अधिक गहन बनाने पर सहमत हुए हैं। पिछले वर्ष भारत और फिलिस्तीन के यूथ डेलीगेशंस के बीच आदान प्रदान हुआ। हमारे युवाओं में निवेश करना और उनके स्किल डेवलपमेंट और संबंधों में सहयोग करना एक साझी प्राथमिकता है। भारत फिलिस्तीन की तरह युवाओं का देश है। हमारी आकांक्षाएं फिलिस्तीन युवाओं के भविष्य को लेकर वैसी ही हैं जैसी हम भारत के युवाओं के लिए रखते हैं, जिसमें प्रगति, समृद्धि और आत्मनिर्भरता के अवसर उपलब्ध हैं। यही हमारा भविष्य है और हमारी मित्रता के उत्तराधिकारी भी हैं। मुझे यह घोषणा करते हुए प्रसन्नता हो रही है कि हम इस साल से युवाओं के एक्सचेंजेस को 50 से बढ़ा करके डबल करेंगे, 100 व्यक्तियों तक हम ले जाएंगे। लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, हमारी आज हुई चर्चा में मैंने प्रेसिडेंट अब्बास को एक बार फिर से आश्वस्त किया है कि भारत फिलिस्तीनी लोगों के हितों का ध्यान रखने के लिए वचनबद्ध है। भारत फिलिस्तीनी के शांतिपूर्ण माहौल में शीघ्र एक संप्रभु स्वतंत्र देश बनने की आशा करता है। प्रेसिडेंट अब्बास और मैंने हाल के क्षेत्रीय और वैश्विक विकास पर विचार विमर्श किया है, जिसका संबंध फिलिस्तीन की शांति, सुरक्षा और शांति प्रक्रिया से है। भारत इस क्षेत्र में शांति और स्थिरता की बहुत उम्मीद करता है। हमारा मानना है कि अंततः फिलिस्तीन के प्रश्न का स्थायी जवाब ऐसी वार्ता और समझ में ही निहित है, जिसके जरिए शांतिपूर्ण सह अस्तित्व का मार्ग मिल सके। केवल गहन कूटनीति और दूरदर्शिता से ही हिंसा के चक्र और इतिहास के बोझ से मुक्ति पाई जा सकती है। हम जानते हैं कि यह आसान नहीं है, लेकिन हमें लगातार कोशिश करते रहना चाहिए, क्योंकि बहुत कुछ दांव पर है। और एक्सेलेंसी, मैं हृदय से आपकी शानदार मेहमान नवाजी के लिए आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं 1.25 बिलियन भारतीयों की ओर से फिलिस्तीनी लोगों को उनकी प्रगति और समृद्धि की हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं भी देता हूं। धन्यवाद, शुक्रन जजीलन।
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so there you saw Prime Minister Modi and President Mahmoud Abbas of Palestine addressing a joint press statement towards the end of their bilateral talks in Ramallah. And just to recap for the benefit of viewers who might just be tuning in, Prime Minister Modi saying that it is an honor for India and Indians alike for Palestine to award its highest civilian award, the Grand Collar of the State of Palestine, on Prime Minister Modi. Remember, the highest award has been reserved for heads of state and monarchs, It was awarded to the kings of Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, and also the president of China, Xi Jinping, and Prime Minister Modi becoming the latest world leader to be conferred the highest civilian order of Palestine. Prime Minister Modi went on to describe President Abbas as an old friend of India, and saying that the late President Yasser Arafat was the tallest leader of his time, and that he was also a special friend of India. He went on to announce that starting this year, India will increase the quota of youth exchanges from the present 50 to 100, and that he reassured India's commitment to the lasting peace in Palestine and the region at large. And for his part, President Abbas saying that he exchanged views on regional and global issues with Prime Minister Modi, especially the Middle East peace process, and about Israel continuing to block any possibility of peace going forward. He went on to say that Palestine was ready to negotiate, ready to engage in negotiations, and that Palestine remains committed to political action and negotiation in accordance with the two-state solution, with borders as demarcated or obtaining in 1967, with East Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. He also spoke about a multilateral mechanism, which was, in his words, most ideal way to broker peace. And he concluded by talking about India's role in the region, and India's strategic and economic heft makes it suitable for pushing for just and desired peace in the region. He also said that he respects Prime Minister Modi's standing in the world, and for his wise, courageous and brave leadership. So that was the sum and substance of the joint statements by both principals, Prime Minister Modi of India and President Mahmoud Abbas of Palestine. If I can bring in my guest at this point in time, Ambassador Arun Singh, who continues to be with me in the studio. Ambassador Singh, what did you make of the opening remarks, as it were, by both principals, the first time they've spoken during the Prime Minister Modi's visit to Ramallah?
Thank you, Ramesh. So I think you very well summarized the comments that both of them made. But to me, a few things stood out. One, in President Abbas's comments, he spoke about the Palestinian leadership, Palestinian people, appreciating India's position on the Palestine issue, which has been there historically. So that was important for him to reiterate that. Second, as we had anticipated in our discussions, he mentioned that there was a detailed discussion on the peace process, because that's really uppermost in their minds. And in the context of that, he referred to the important role that India plays globally in the non-aligned movement, and how countries like India could look at reactivating some of these processes. So that was an important thought. The third element was that he did refer to the challenge of terrorism, and that there was no justification for terrorism, and again an important point from our point of view. If I looked at some of the comments that our Prime Minister made, again, as we had anticipated in our discussions, there was a lot of focus on the role India is playing in the state building efforts in Palestine, in capacity building. And he spoke of the new technology park that India has been working on, that we will work to create an institute of diplomacy. In health, education, women's empowerment, India would make a contribution, printing press, the youth exchanges. So the thrust of the effort was India's role in state building and capacity building in Palestine. The Prime Minister did refer to the fact that historically we have a friendly relationship. Historically we've been supportive of the Palestinian cause, of the Palestinian issue, and that we will always be attentive to the interests of the Palestinian people. And he made that point. And then he called for diplomacy, a need for coexistence, for the process to be taken forward. But again, as we anticipated, he didn't speak of India playing any particular role in advancing the peace process. And he reiterated India's support for a sovereign, independent Palestine, but he didn't go into details of what that would constitute. Again, reflecting some of the dynamics of the equations there. So I would say, looking at the visit so far, it has certainly achieved its purpose. The first ever visit of an Indian Prime Minister, a visit only to Palestine, not combining it with a visit to Israel. warmly received. He has also been given the highest award of the Palestinian state, and reiterating from India's point of view our continued interest in cooperation with Palestine, state building in Palestine, and engagement with the principles of the Palestinian issue and the Israel-Palestine issues.
Sure. Ambassador Singh, do stay on. I'm joined by my colleague Daniele Pagani, live from Ramallah. Daniele, good to have you join us on this conversation. We are nearing or approaching the end of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Palestine, and we've just heard from both principals, Prime Minister Modi and President Abbas. What did you make of their remarks towards the end of their joint press statement?
So let's begin from the memorandum of understanding that they signed. These are powerful in their symbolic meaning. Why so? Heritage development, women development, education, and financing a media center for press media. These are all instruments to empower a population which needs very much to rely on whatever they have here in Palestine to make it substantial, to make it possible to go on. So this is what India is doing. This is what India is doing also in other parts of the world. The chopper, the military chopper, the Israeli military chopper is taking off right now. So we might have some disturbances. This is significant because India is giving some tools for democracy development, healthcare, education, media, heritage, women empowerment. This is what it means to invest in civilian infrastructure and political infrastructure. When it comes to the political stand of India, very cautious, but we also have to remember that this scenario is a complicated scenario. It is not possible to expect from a prime minister to come here and in 10 minutes finding a solution to resolve the conflict.
Also, Daniele, President Abbas, for his part, mentioned that they discussed the West Asian peace process at some length in their bilateral talks. He went on to say that he appreciates India's position on a number of issues, and he also spoke out against terrorism. Your thoughts?
Definitely, yes. Remember, Ramesh, that India makes it always very clear everywhere, in every international forum, in every bilateral talks, that terrorism is enemy number one for India. Terrorism, fighting against terrorism is a priority for India. And it is also a priority, and Palestinians can be of very much help being here on the ground and knowing very well movements of people suspected and suspicious, movement of people on the ground right now here. Therefore, what we were expecting, so India, even if not very strongly, but reiterating the friendship with Palestine, giving to the Palestinians instrument to develop their democracy, and also, if I may, giving to Palestinians funds in order to open a press media center means empowering the media, the local media, which is the Palestinian voice towards the world. So this is another memorandum of understanding which has a political significance. Friendship is reiterated. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, did not talk about a possible solution of conflict, but as I said already, we could not expect any Prime Minister of the world to come here and to just find a solution for a conflict which has been going on for decades.
All right, Daniele, do stay on. I'm now rejoined by Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, this time on Skype. Ambassador Ahmed, thank you for rejoining this conversation. What did you make of the joint press statement by both leaders there? All right, I'm told we will be joined in some time by Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, but I'm told we have with us once again Kadira Pethegora, who joins us on Skype from London. He is a non-resident fellow at the Brookings Doha Center. What did you make of the joint press statements by Prime Minister Modi and President Abbas, especially probably what they did not mention in their remarks there?
Yes, I think what we saw, we compare the two speeches of the two leaders, is something that we see in several of India's relationships, particularly in that region, where the other power is sort of pushing a bit more for deeper, more substantive strategic ties, and India is sort of slightly reluctant to overtly discuss those things too publicly. But what I think is quite substantive in what, particularly what Abbas said, is he referred to India's standing and strategic heft. And I think that is what provides India with a particular advantage to become more involved in the peace process. So you've got the objectivity, where India is seen in contrast to the Trump administration. India is seen as an objective, impartial potential player. It's also seen as a friend to all in the region. But in addition to that, it's also seen as a country which has some power. And particularly important is that India is a country which has some power and influence over Israel. Because if you look at the Palestine-Israel conflict, Israel is by far the more powerful player, and in any sort of serious partner for peace would have to have some kind of leverage over Israel, and India has that, given that between 40 and 45% of Israel's defense exports go to India. As I mentioned before, Israel sees India as a very important public relationship to have to improve its image, and I think those things give India a unique and important role that it can play.
I also want you to weigh in on a couple of other points that President Mahmoud Abbas made there. He talked about Palestine's commitment to political action and negotiation in accordance with the two-state solution with 1967 borders and East Jerusalem as the capital of a future Palestine state, number one. Number two, he says, we are ready to engage in negotiations. And lastly, he spoke about a multilateral mechanism, which he says is the most ideal way to broker peace. Your thoughts on each of these issues?
Yes, I think so. The first two statements, I guess, suggest show that, after a very strong rhetoric early on, after Trump's Jerusalem decision, the Palestinians are now sort of trying to project to the world that their side is open to negotiations and trying to, I guess, project Netanyahu's government as more the obstructionist one. In terms of the multilateral forum, I think this is something that would be advantageous to the Palestinians, given that a forum that's more representative of the countries around the world would, of course, involve more developing countries, would involve, I think I've mentioned Russia and China, and, of course, countries like India, which would take away, I guess, the sort of the Western weighting in negotiations and would, I guess, also be seen as a more legitimate forum by many countries around the world, given that it reflects the diversity of the global community.
All right, Kazira Petigoro, do stay on. I'm now joined for the first time on this subject by Lior Weintraub, who joins us live on Skype from Jerusalem. And for our viewers, Lior is a political strategist and former Israeli diplomat who has served in India. Thank you, Lior, for joining us on this important discussion visit of Prime Minister Modi's to Palestine. I don't know whether you heard the two leaders address the media there, but what did you make of the optics, the substantive part of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Palestine?
Well, first of all, I think that Prime Minister Modi's visit is welcome, and it's a welcome development after the visit in Israel and the Prime Minister Netanyahu visit in India. Look, here we understand and we know that India is a friend of Israel and that India has a long tradition of a good relationship with the Palestinian and a very strong sentiment about the Palestinian cause. We understand that. That's why we believe that India now might have an historic role in creating a conducive environment to restart the negotiation. We believe that Prime Minister Modi, as a friend of the Palestinian and also the friend of Israel who enjoy the confidence of many Israelis, should say very frankly to the Palestinians, what is your exit strategy today when you disconnected yourself from the American administration? What are you really willing to do in order to achieve peace? Are you, President Abbas, someone who can or willing to pay the price for peace? And to talk very candidly behind closed doors, I mean, and tell them, look, we, India, are standing beside you traditionally in the international fora. So we can help you achieve symbolic gesture, but what will it help you? What will it help your country? What will it help your citizen? Or we can help you kind of climb down from the tree that you climbed on and renegotiate or re-engage with the Americans and with the Israelis and try to achieve historic peace, a viable peace that will lead all of us to a better reality and to bring our people a better future. This is where I think this visit can be very conducive.
Lior, since you are the lone Israeli voice on this conversation, I have to ask you this. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel has always been saying that, all right, I'm told we have lost that connection with Lior. We'll try to fix that Skype line with him in a bit. But just to bring our viewers up to speed with the latest coming in from Ramallah, Prime Minister Modi and President Mahmoud Abbas of Palestine have just concluded addressing the media after their bilateral meeting. All right, I'm told I can go across to my colleague Daniele Pagani, who is live with us from Ramallah. Daniele, I wanted to ask you a question, but I'll come to that in a bit. But if I can just ask you the same question I wanted to ask Lior Weintraub there. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel has always spoken about how he took his girlfriend, now wife, to an Indian restaurant in Tel Aviv. Looking ahead, could New Delhi or any other Indian city be a possible venue for talks or backroom talks, behind-the-scenes talks to bring the two sides together?
I think it is doable, but we have a problem on the ground, and I slightly disagree with the Israeli guest that we just had. It takes two to make a peace agreement, and as of now, it doesn't seem that the Israeli government is really open to negotiations when it comes to a two-state solution, having India as a broker. Even Palestine is not very much openly saying this, so it is a difficult scenario. I certainly think that India can play a very neutral and renewed role. The rehyphenation of the relation between India and Palestine and between India and Israel is, I would say, the first step of a very long process. This is a delicate scenario, and everyone needs to be on board. Certainly, New Delhi can be the venue, New Delhi can be a relevant player, but Ramesh, it doesn't take just a couple of visits. It doesn't take. This is a delicate situation. It needs a lot of diplomacy and it needs a lot of attention from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But certainly, if you ask me if India can play a positive role, definitely yes. My answer is definitely yes.
Indeed, as you mentioned, Daniel, it takes two to tango. But that said, how much of the discussion that we've heard so far take place in Ramallah resonate with the leadership in Israel, if at all?
Can you please repeat the question, Ramesh?
Sorry, how will the discussion that have taken place in Ramallah today between India and Palestine, how will it resonate with the leadership in Israel as far as the peace process or peace talks go?
I think that the leadership in Israel will be very cautious. Also, they know very much that their relations with India is a good relation, is a business relation. Business ties are warming. Definitely, this is true. But remember that India is a huge, large democracy, is a world player. India is not subjugated to any political request, so also Israel needs to be very cautious in judging and criticizing what India is doing when it comes to creating its own relation on the ground here in West Asia. If the Israeli leadership will be very aggressive criticizing India for the reiteration of the friendship with the Palestinians, for the economic help and the development that they are offering to the Palestinians, well, it could be something that New Delhi would not welcome, because it could be a kind of an interference when it comes to the policy of a country, India, which is independent and is taking a very independent stance. So I expect a mild reaction. I expect them to note down that this is happening and to note down that once again India is a player which is putting itself on the ground and saying, you're two separate independent entities for me. I am considering Israel and Palestine as both equally possible interlocutors. Right. Therefore, I'm open to this kind of relation. Let's see.
Right. Daniele, do stay on. I'm told I've been rejoined by Lior Weintraub, who was with us a moment ago. He's rejoining us live via Skype from Israel. Lior, if you can hear me, I wanted to ask you this question. You have served in India, and as Prime Minister Netanyahu has said many times in the past, he took his girlfriend, now wife, to an Indian restaurant in Tel Aviv, and possibly the Indian food did the magic. So could New Delhi or any other town or city in India be a possible venue for bringing the two sides together? Maybe Indian food and Indian weather? Who knows?
First of all, Indian food does magic for all of us. So maybe if Prime Minister Modi can invite Abbas and Netanyahu to enjoy an Indian, one of the great Indian restaurants in Tel Aviv, I think that could do magic for sure. But if to approach this issue seriously for a second, and I heard that it takes two to tango, Israel has been tangoing along for quite some time. We made a very generous offer during Barak's time, during Olmer's time, and we are at the moment alone at the negotiation table. But I think India can, since it's been trusted by both sides, it can talk candidly to both sides. It can talk about the strategic decisions that are necessary. It can help bringing the people or create the conducive atmosphere which is needed in order to renew negotiation. But we must be frank about it and say there is no substitute to the American role in achieving peace. There is no substitute to the American moderator. Hence, the best service that India can do to the Palestinian is to be candid and to be open, like friends should be open with one another, and tell them, when are you coming back to the table? Any gesture from Cameroon, Angola, or any other states in the General Assembly will not bring your desired Palestinian answer. Come back to the table, all the hardship that it includes, and we'll see how it goes. We'll be there to support the two sides. That's what I think that the Indian contribution can be in the situation. Ramesh, if I can, Israel is right now looking closely what's going on North. Early this morning, the Iranian UAV the Israeli.
All right, Lior, I'm told we're having an audio problem with your connection. We'll try to fix that in a bit, but if I can just go across to Ambassador Singh. Lior says that there is no substitute for the United States, number one, and number two, expects India to be, quote-unquote, candid going forward with both Israel and Palestine. Your thoughts?
So I'd say one, of course, Israeli leaders, Israeli people would want India to be candid with the Palestinians, and the Palestinians would want India to be candid with the Israelis. So given that, you spoke about whether New Delhi can be a venue for the talks. If both Israelis and Palestinians want, certainly it can be a venue, but New Delhi should never thrust itself as a venue for the talks. In terms of no substitute for the United States in leading the process, U.S. is the only country with the capacity to have some influence on both. And if the Israeli leaders are prepared to have any third-party role, it is only the United States. President Abbas had talked about, for example, a multilateral forum. Israel is completely opposed to any multilateral forum because they believe that if there is a multilateral forum for peace process, then the number of countries there who would not be aligned with Israel's position would be large, and they would never agree with that. The only time Israelis and Palestinians had an agreement, for example, in the Oslo process, it was a process between Israelis and Palestinians. And after that, a multilateral forum was established to try and promote cooperation in different areas. So it's a complex process. And even in the US, you have to understand that, for example, when President Obama tried to push the peace process forward, Israel pushed back because Israel has certain capacity to influence processes within the United States. Therefore, the issue is complex, and I think we should be mindful of what are the Palestinian interests, strategies, Israeli interest strategies, and then really keep that in mind. In terms of the issue you raised, whether Israeli leaders would be watching the visit, and I think they'll be watching it closely, because as they do for every visit that takes place to Palestinian area, And aside from the fact that the Prime Minister did not visit Israel along with a visit to Palestine, aside from that, I think they should really have no cause for concern, because nothing that emerged from the visit or was said was different from our existing position on the various
So India was
issues.
consistent throughout?
Consistent
The messaging
throughout.
was consistent?
Messaging, the actions, the kind of cooperation measures that we have decided we will do has been consistent with what we have been doing so far.
And very quickly, Ambassador Singh, to go back to the point about Israel-US relations, is it a classic case of the tail wagging the dog? I mean, do you see a disproportionate influence of Israeli politics on Washington or the other way around?
So I think it's more complex than that, and I think there are a large number of people in the United States who, for their own reasons, are supportive of what they see as Israel's interests. And Israel is certainly able to leverage that. And therefore, when US leaders, as President Obama did, tried to push things in a different direction, Israel was able to push back. And so we have to be mindful of that influence.
All right, Ambassador Singh, hold the thought. I want to go across one more time to Kadira Pettigoro, who joins us on live via Skype from London. We were discussing about the Israel-US dynamic. How do you see that playing out, especially in light, given the fact that Israel must be watching very closely the ongoing visit of Prime Minister Modi to Palestine and the reactions made thereafter by President Mahmoud Abbas, especially about a multilateral mechanism, as he says, is the most ideal way to broker peace?
Yes, I mean, I think we have a stalemate in the sense if Indians want a multilateral, which of course would add to the status quo, and includes the status quo situation beneficial, so they're not going to agree to a multilateral forum. I think where there would be, I guess, the key changing dynamic in the region, which would in the long term influence the Israel-Palestine issue, is the role of great powers and the role that the United States plays. And as you just mentioned, Israel has a very close relationship with the United States. There's strong people-to-people ties. There's political groups within the United States that support Israel. But then on the other hand, I would also mention that you've got a generational change in the United States. You've got politicians like Bernie Sanders from the left, Rand Paul from the right, people like Tulsi Gabbard, who want the United States to take a less interventionist, less involved approach to the Middle East. And I think if you look at part of the reason why Trump was more popular than Clinton, particularly among certain segments of the population, it was because he was seen as a non-interventionist and that he would disengage the United States from some of these conflicts. And that, I guess, that trend is something that would affect Israel and would affect the influence that, I guess, Israel can have on the United States and the US's positions with regard to the issue. So I think that Israel sees, if you look at why Netanyahu prioritizes India so much, I think that's because Israel does see that in the long term it needs to build up relations with other countries other than the United States. I think it's really the involvement of these other countries that you will eventually see a long-term strategy or opportunity for peace.
And very quickly, as someone who looks very closely at West Asian affairs, where does the two-state solution or the thread of the two-state solution lie as we speak today? Is it dead and gone for all practical purposes, or you think it still can be revived going forward?
I think it's pretty much on its last legs in terms of life support. I think you would need to really see what the exit strategy for the Israeli government is, the Netanyahu government, that if the two-state solution does die, then what situation would they like to have and what situation would they see as tenable, and how would that influence their global reputation and relationships?
Right. I have just enough time for last closing remark from my guest. Kadira, to you first, and then Ambassador Singh.
Just to re-emphasize, I think that the visit, highlights the key role that India can play,
okay.
The great image that India has as a friend to all, as an independent power that no matter how close it becomes to the United States or Israel, no matter how much of a tradition it has of supporting the Palestinians or Arab states, it will still always act independently, and it will try to act according to its interest and principles. And that this very principle and tradition is what makes India such an important potential player in the future peace relationship.
Right, point taken there. Lior, to you now for your closing comments very quickly.
The two-state solution is alive. We need two sides to tango. Israelis are willing. It's complicated, it's hard, but it's not the only solution. Indian involvement very much welcome. It can play a crucial role by being candid with both sides. It has been candid with Israelis for many years. About time to be candid with the Palestinians, and I think the Prime Minister Modi was right on target in the press conference, as well as Ambassador Arun Singh, who we know and appreciate his knowledge and expertise in the region.
All right, Ambassador Singh, your thoughts now.
So a very important visit, a historic visit, the first ever visit of an Indian Prime Minister. But a clear signal that even as India builds its bilateral relationship with Israel, it will maintain its position on the broad position in the Israel-Palestine issue, consolidate relations with Israel, with Palestinian Authority, contribute to state building in Palestine, and continue to deepen its engagement with the wider West Asian region. And I think that's the message coming out of it.
All right. On that note, Ambassador Arun Singh, Lior Weintraub, Kadira Petigoda, and my colleague Daniel Epagani, thank you all for joining me on the discussion.